Thank you for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in eDiscovery. With the rapidly shifting landscape for electronically stored information, or ESI, understanding the quality and character of your custodians in your matter and what you can do with digital forensics is really critical for finding the evidence you need to build your case. And that's what we're going to cover in today's presentation. The pandemic dramatically impacted the ESI landscape. It was impressive to see most organizations quickly pivot to address this existential threat. Consequently, smartphones became the dominant productivity tool, enabling the remote connected workforce. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Lexby, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. We've got a lot of information to cover, so I'll jump right in. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant eDiscovery topics, trends, best practices, and strategies. We've got limited seating, so be sure to register early for the sessions that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email webinars@lexby.com and we'll address those right away. Our webinars are available online at lexby.com for viewing via streaming video or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexby.com. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexby.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll see our mini webinar series that we've launched that cover a wide variety of topics, including forensics and forensic collections from the cloud, from smartphones, from other devices. They're all very short, easy to consume videos that are 5 minutes or less. And that can be a great kind of primer to keep you up to speed on the latest and greatest when it comes to eDiscovery and forensics. So a little bit about us. We're based in Austin, Texas, and we've served over 8,660 legal professionals with their cases. We've been in business more than 16 years, and we developed our own cloud-based eDiscovery platform. We specialize in helping organizations forensically collect data for investigations and cases, as well as equipping them with an eDiscovery solution that gives them full control over the eDiscovery process, DIY capabilities, incredibly fast performance, and industry-leading affordability. We have a highly advanced forensic lab staffed with experts that are all Cellebrite certified, which is the gold standard for smartphone collections. We've engineered the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY cloud-based eDiscovery platform. We have the industry's fastest eDiscovery processing and document review capabilities. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment, and we're also voted the easiest to do business with. We've got a team of experienced eDiscovery specialists and expert consultants who are all ACED certified and ready to assist. And if you'd like a complimentary forensic consultation or a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexby.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Joining us today is Asia Bowman. Asia is a digital forensic examiner in the Lexby Forensic Lab. She is certified as both a Cellebrite operator and a Cellebrite physical analyst. She has a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from Mississippi State University and a Master's of Science in Cybersecurity from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Before I turn it over to Asia, I'm going to cover the rapid evolution of the workplace and technology and share with you some of the statistics on cloud, smartphone, and app utilization, give you an overview of some of the ESI stored on these devices, as well as ask for your participation in some polling questions to set the stage for Asia's presentation. Certainly no surprise here, Amazon Web Services owns the most market share of the public cloud providers and has over $17 billion in revenue in Q4 of last year. There's no reason to anticipate any near-term slowdown in cloud growth because of the cost savings, improved performance, and ability to support any worker with a connection. So whether they're on the enterprise prem or remote, they can access the resources that they need. That's also one reason why we host the Lexby eDiscovery platform in the Amazon Web Services Cloud. What might surprise you is the over 30 cloud-based services that the average employee utilizes daily. This is very important to keep in mind, especially during those custodian interviews. You want to make sure that you track those down. Utilizing a data map is an invaluable tool to help determine the evidentiary cloud landscape for your matter. Companies are continuing to migrate applications and data to the cloud, so it's important to understand their unique cloud environments. And that takes me to the next slide. So you can think of the cloud types just like you think of real estate. So a private cloud is like a single family home with dedicated plumbing, telecommunications, and other resources. A public cloud is like an apartment building or condominium building with shared infrastructure like the foundation, plumbing, telecommunications, and more. So the important point here on this chart by Flexera is that most organizations utilize a hybrid cloud environment that is a combination of public clouds and private clouds. So knowing this will help you ask the right questions to uncover critical data sources for forensic extraction. So the intersection of the cloud, applications, and mobile devices. 11 years ago, Microsoft launched Office 365. I attended their worldwide partner conference in LA for that launch, which certainly ages me a bit. Gmail is approximately 10 years old. So email has fully migrated to the cloud. Messaging apps are all run on cloud infrastructure, and cloud storage dominates the market. There are a few exceptions, and almost all of these cloud services have mobile applications that interface with the cloud infrastructure. So if you can't find it on their mobile device, you can very likely find it in the cloud. We saw an increase in the number of email accounts per custodian during the pandemic, and this has sustained post-pandemic. The pandemic created an environment where personal and corporate IT often became commingled. So some of the web-based email clients can be problematic at times in how contacts can shift between the to line in an email and the CC line. So this has privilege implications, and so it's very important to be able to identify those emails. So making sure you're rigorous in your custodian interviews to identify these web-based email accounts and personal email accounts is very important. And then having email threading capabilities so that you can identify those cases where counsel might shift from the to line to the CC line is also very, very important, especially in privilege review. So in June of 2022, the one device that caused massive changes in the SI landscape turned 15 years old. So the iPhone was instrumental in the emergence of BYOD programs or bring your own device programs where executives loved the device so much, they went to their IT departments and told them they no longer wanted to use that BlackBerry and wanted to use their own iPhones. This policy trickled down, or this became a policy and trickled down to employees throughout most enterprises. This is also the source of what I call the avalanche. So the massive waves of apps that exploded onto the scene, many of these with messaging capabilities and cloud connectivity and accounts. You know, the iPhone made data highly portable. It's never been easier to move data from one location to the next, simply drag and drop. It's super simple. And that causes its own challenges. The good thing is we've got an advanced forensic department to help with that, but it is a cloud access hub, and it's also full of messaging services and capabilities. You know, Android soon followed with similar impact, and this has dramatically changed the environment for us. So thanks Steve Jobs and Apple for creating a little more complexity for your matters there. So internet and app usage during the pandemic. So many of these have stuck post-pandemic, but the Pew Research Center does a good job of covering technology consumption across the US. I'm not going to get into all the details of this slide because we'll be sharing these slides with you after the event. However, I did want to highlight with little surprise that there are significant geographic and demographic differences in the utilization of apps and the internet. So understanding not only the character and quality of your custodians, but also understanding their demographics and locations can give you some insight into what questions you might ask and how you would utilize a data map in the process to help identify the data sources you need. Again, not a big surprise here, but email and messaging utilization grew significantly during the pandemic, and I'm going to cover more of that shortly. Also, network connectivity, both cellular and broadband, was critical to the majority of Americans during the pandemic. That's not a surprise, but it's really important to understand that, you know, the app utilization has not slowed down post-pandemic, and so adoption of most apps and utilization of those apps has continued to be strong. So smartphone penetration in the U.S. has grown to 85%. That was as of February in 2021. And this is a really big number. While smartphones continually increased in cost since their inception, most manufacturers have figured out that to grow, they've got a lower cost for devices, and that will be required. So Apple launched a lower cost iPhone, and Google has done the same for Android. These moves should drive up penetration higher, so we should see that inch up over the next few years. The average smartphone user utilizes 9 apps per day on average and 30 apps per month, and also has 80 apps resident on their device. So that's what we've seen. It's consistent with these numbers. Probably the most eye-opening stat on this slide is in the middle, where Zoom grew from 10 million daily meeting participants to 350 million daily meeting participants during the pandemic. That's a lot of recordings, that's a lot of evidence, and that's a lot of users participating on Zoom calls. The pandemic drove messaging, web conferencing, and collaboration growth in a big way. And you'll find all these apps are enabled on smartphones. Collaboration apps in particular, like Slack and Microsoft Teams, we often find that the communication style on those apps tends to be more casual and not as formal, and often leads to being a good source of evidence as well. Bring your own device programs, or BYOD, is where employees utilize their personal smartphone for work. So most of these programs have a policy and some level of cost reimbursement. The employee is responsible for the carrier service contract. You know, this phenomenon started with the launch of the iPhone, as I mentioned, and the commingling of personal and corporate domains creates legal and security issues, but that really didn't prevent the train from leaving the station. As you can see by the stats, smartphones are hubs for productivity and extend the workday for most organizations and their employees. And I wanted to note that the last bullet point on checking your smartphone in bed or on the toilet will not be a polling question today. Incredibly rich sources of evidence. As you can see, smartphones are full of data. Sometimes this data is merged into a single file. As an example, often location-based data, you can find that embedded in photos, depending on the settings on the device. And in the bottom right, where it says databases, you'll find that a lot of apps will install a database on the device to store information. And so those are often really rich sources of evidence as well. With BYOD, shadow IT has become a significant issue. This is non-corporate sanctioned IT that employees adopt to do their jobs. So again, the commingling of personal and corporate domains certainly exacerbates this issue. And now with the Great Resignation and the ease of data portability that I talked about, the smartphone is often at the center of data exfiltration matters. Now I'm going to ask our first polling question. Are you effectively equipped to find the crucial sources of ESI during custodian interviews? Yes or no? All right, while you're answering that, I'll thank you for participating in our polling questions today. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And our second polling question, do you use data mapping during custodian interviews? Yes, no, or what is data mapping? All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Asia Bowman. Asia?
Thank you, Jeff, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As he has stated, I am Asia Bowman, the speaker for this webinar. And today's topic is about eDiscovery and digital forensics. just taking a deeper dive into what digital forensics is and how it plays an important role in eDiscovery matters. So let's jump right into it. So for the agenda, some of the topics we'll be discussing is what is digital forensics, example of digital media, eDiscovery, and digital forensics, findings, metadata, hash values, deleted data, load files, export options, and then the key takeaways from this webinar. So what is digital forensics? Digital forensics is one of the many disciplines of forensic science that involves the identification, preservation, recovery, and analysis of digital media. So basically, it's a specialized field under forensic science. And whenever we collect any type of digital evidence, our goal is to preserve that evidence in its original form, so therefore we can later analyze it. So when someone uses any type of digital device, they will always leave behind a digital footprint, which basically will provide any type of crucial information about a user. So the example of that would be such as when they were active on the digital device or what type of web pages they had visited. So as a digital forensic examiner or investigator, it's our role to recover and retrieve that type of data. So for the first example of digital media are mobile devices. This will include iPhones, Androids, iPads, and tablets. So as far as the operating system, this will include devices that has iOS, Android, Windows, and RIM, which is used mainly for Blackberries. So when it comes to collecting any type of data from these mobile devices, there are some forensic tools that will be used, such as Celebrate, that will basically trace the events that occurred on these mobile devices and help build a storyline of the events. Magnet Axiom, which basically helps categorizes the artifacts for easy review. EnCase, which will help conduct in-depth analysis of any type of log files and registry files that's found on these mobile devices, as well as Oxygen, which will acquire data from over 20,000 devices and help import backups and images. And with these tools, they are trusted within the forensic community because they are able to ensure data integrity and confidentiality. So it may seem as though some of these tools can perform some of the same actions, but of course, each so depending on what type of data that you want to pull from these mobile devices, there are of course different types of methods that you can choose from. So for example, physical, they will basically make a bit by bit copy of all the flash memory on the mobile device. So this will basically collect the user data, deleted records, and any type of unallocated areas of the memory on the mobile devices. So with this method, that will collect everything on the mobile device. For a logical extraction method, this is the fastest extraction method that you can use, but this method will only retrieve the user data, so things such as messages, pictures, videos, phone calls, things of that nature. With file system, this will collect data about the file system, the settings, permissions on the mobile device. So with this method, it will retrieve less data on the mobile device. And then the last method is manual, which will require a examiner or investigator to view each item on the device and basically just capturing the screens on the device of whatever data that they're looking at. And with this method, this is very time consuming. So as I stated before, it depends on what you're wanting to pull from these mobile devices, and therefore you can choose what type of method that you would like to use to extract this type of evidence from the mobile device. So when it comes to what you can pull from these mobile devices, you can pull things such as text messages, emails, photos, any type of videos, locations, call logs, the contacts, internet history, and other things like calendar and notes, of course. So with the help of these forensic tools and extraction methods, we are able to pull any type of data from mobile devices. So with the next example of digital media includes computers and hard drives. The operating systems you will find within computers and hard drives will be Windows, Macintosh, and Linux. So for the file systems associated with computers and hard drives include NTFS, which stands for New Technology File System. And with this file system, this is the more modern file system you can find within Windows and Macs and Linux computers. Another type of file system is FAT, or File Allocation Table, which is more of an old file system for Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. Another type is exFAT, which is another older file system found within Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. And the last example of a file system is APFS, which is an Apple file system. So for forensic tools that we will use to collect evidence from computer and hard drives would include Magnet, Axiom, and EnCase, as I briefly discussed those in the previous slide. Another example we'll use to collect evidence from computer and hard drives is FTK, or Forensic Toolkit. And a unique feature that FTK does is that it images data in multiple formats, so it's easier to import to other programs for analysis. Another type of tool we will use is Xways, which will help find deleted files and also help with imaging disk. And another forensic tool that we'll be able to use is SleuthKit, which will help analyze disk images and recover data from Linux-based computers. So for the data acquisition for computers and hard drives, there are three methods that you can use. That includes physical, logical, and targeted. So as I mentioned before, with the physical method, that will basically collect everything from the computer and hard drive. With the logical method, that would only retrieve the user data. And for targeted, with this method, you can focus on collecting certain types of documents or files that's stored on the computer and hard drives instead of trying to collect everything from those devices. As far as what we can pull from computers and hard drives, the type of data that will be extracted includes documents, photos, videos, system files, registry files, log files, even deleted data, and much more. External devices are another example of digital media. So this will include thumb drives, external hard drives, media cards, CDs, DVDs, and SIM cards. So anything that has to be inserted or plugged into a computer. We will collect from a computer and hard drive. We will also use the same forensic tools to collect from external devices. So tools we will use are Magnet, Axiom, EnCase, FTK, Xways, and SleuthKit. And I would also like to point out that with these tools, they are also able to recognize external devices as their own individual things. As far as the data acquisition, it will also be the same, so physical, logical, and targeted. And for the type of data that we can pull from external devices include documents, photos, videos, spreadsheets, text files, system files, and much more, of course. So the last example of digital media that I will be talking about today are cloud and webmail. So to name a few of the popular cloud services that we can collect from includes Apple iCloud, Google iCloud, OneDrive, Dropbox, Telegram, OneDrive, Dropbox, Telegram, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and to name a few more include Discord, Fitbit, WhatsApp, and of course, much, much more. With social media, the types of accounts that we can collect from includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. With webmail, we can collect data from Google, Yahoo, Outlook, Microsoft 365, and Exchange email accounts. So in order for us to collect data from the cloud and webmail accounts, we would need the account holder's credentials. So we would need their username or email and their password to make sure that we can log in successfully. And if the account holder has two-step verification turned on some of these accounts, then sometimes we would have to call them just so we can ensure a successful login. So the call will only take about 5 minutes, just so we can retrieve a code or have them push a button for us on their end so we can log in successfully. As far as the forensic tools that we use to collect cloud and web metadata, that will include Magnet, Axiom, and Celebrate. So by using these tools, we are able to collect any type of data from these cloud services, social media, and webmail accounts. So now I would like to talk about how digital forensics play an important role within eDiscovery. So with eDiscovery and digital forensics, they share similar processes, which includes identifying, collecting, and preserving data. So oftentimes during an eDiscovery matter, digital forensics is necessary. So if you want to ensure data integrity and confidentiality, or you want further analysis on a type of digital evidence, or if you're unsure on how to pull data from any type of examiner or investigator can provide their services for you. So when it comes to digital evidence, forensic experts are able to collect, recover, and analyze the data for legal matters. And after analyzing the data and organizing the digital evidence, then digital forensics expert can provide the evidence to the council or have it uploaded to an eDiscovery review platform that can be reviewed by the council. So to continue on with this conversation, within the forensic community, we will only use tools that we can trust and ensure data integrity and confidentiality, since that is our main priority. After collecting and organizing the evidence from digital devices, then this data can be ingested into any eDiscovery review platform of your choice. Forensic reports can also be created and provided by forensic experts, just stating the steps of the forensic experts, just stating the steps of the forensic collection, their analysis process, and the export of the data. Along with creating a forensic report, digital forensic experts can testify in court to provide an expert testimony and also explain their processes and findings in detail. So another service provided by digital forensic experts is consultation. So with this, we are able to assist law firms and attorneys with using the correct language when they are in need to get data from the opposing side. So by consulting with a digital forensic expert, we can help you explain what type of digital evidence that you need to retrieve and the different types of methods that you can use to retrieve that type of data. And by using the correct forensic jargon, as I like to call it, you should be able to discuss with your opposing counsel about what digital evidence you need to retrieve from them with no problems at all. Examiner and investigator can find information that you might be interested in, such as if an external device was plugged into a computer, the date and time a device or file was last accessed, some financial transactions, the metadata of a file, which I will talk about on the next slide, some unusual activity that occurred on a device, and other things such as locations, if there has been changes to a file or document, and also passwords if that has been stored on the device. So with the process used by the digital forensic expert, those processes should be able to be replicated by another forensic expert to yield the same results. So within the forensic community, there are some best practices that we use, such as using a chain of custody, which will detail things such as who had the evidence and what they were doing to that evidence and what they were doing to that evidence. The use of write blockers, which will prevent evidence from being modified, and using the trusted tools that I have listed before. So now about metadata, this will basically summarize the details about data, or as we like to call it, data about data. And with metadata, this will help sort and identify certain attributes of the information that it describes. And you are able to find metadata for web pages, spreadsheets, videos, images, etc. And if you look on the right side, you will see things included in the metadata, such as the file name, created date and time, size, the MD5 hash, author, and lots more. Now with hash values, this is created through an algorithm that will produce a unique value that is associated with a particular file. So whenever a file or document is first created, then a hash value would be generated for that certain file or document. So with that being said, whenever a person wants to change a file or document, then that will significantly change the hash value. So some of the things that can change a hash value can include saving a Microsoft Word to a PDF, since both of those are encoded in different ways. Also, going to a document or file and changing even one letter or a whole word can change the hash value of that file or document. But if you want to, say, copy the file or document to a thumb drive, then that won't change the hash value of that file or document, as well as emailing the file as an attachment. That wouldn't change the hash value either. So the importance of hash are that the data hasn't been modified in any type of ways, and you can also use hash values to identify and compare files. So let's say, for example, that some important documents have been stolen from your company, and you want to prove that this other company has stolen your files. So you will be able to use hash values to prove that those are the same documents, even though they might have changed the title name of the document, but that wouldn't have changed the hash value. So with hash values, there are different hash types that would include the MD5, SHA1, and SHA256. With MD5, this will generate a 128-bit string. With SHA1, that will generate a 160-bit string. And with SHA256, this will generate a 256-bit string. So when you want to compare these hash types, you have to compare the MD5 hash to a MD5 hash and the SHA1 hash to another SHA1 hash, since they all generate different number bit strings. Now about deleted data, this can usually be recovered since the data has to be overwritten in order for the data to be lost. So for computers, it will be easier to recover the deleted data since it resides in the unallocated space of the hard drive. But unfortunately, computers that had the solid state drives, which is a storage device on the computer, can automatically overwrite the deleted files. When it comes to mobile devices, it can be more difficult to recover deleted data due to the free space being inaccessible. So sometimes a physical extraction needs to be performed to collect the data. But when it comes to access limitations, such as the company's restrictions and security on these mobile devices, the physical extraction may not be possible. So a partial recovery is possible if only part of the deleted file's original location is overwritten. And with these recovered files, they may not include the metadata to prove the ownership of the file, the timestamps, or the original storage location of the file. So just to reiterate, it is easier to collect deleted data from computers than mobile devices. And when it comes to mobile devices, we try to get as much data as possible with these restrictions and limitations. In eDiscovery, you will sometimes come across data load files, which will contain the native data as well as the metadata from the files within the collection, which will make it easier to review and searchable. By using the tools MagnaAxiom and Celebrate, they can create a load file from the collected data during an investigation. So by creating a load file, this will help export extracted metadata from a processing tool, as I stated before. So it can be uploaded to a eDiscovery review platform such as Lexfeed or others. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, you can see what a data load file would look like. After a digital forensic examiner or investigator has finished analyzing the data, then the client can choose which export option they would like to go with. So the client has the option to choose an export that can include the data in the native format or within another format such as Excel and PDF. So with using MagnaAxiom or Celebrate, Some of the formats that you can choose to export the data includes PDF, Excel, load file, as I mentioned in the last slide, which can be imported into any eDiscovery platform, HTML, which is a browser format, or another forensic tool export that can be shared with other forensic experts. So that is all the topics I have for this webinar. So some key takeaways include the process of digital forensic, which includes the identification, preservation, recovery, and analysis of digital media. Some example of digital evidence sources can include mobile devices, computers, hard drives, external hard drives, cloud, and webmail. Oftentimes, digital forensics play an important role within eDiscovery matters, such as getting a consultation from a digital forensic expert just to get the correct language and jargon in case you need to talk to your opposing counsel to retrieve any type of digital evidence from their side, as well as if you want to ensure data integrity and confidentiality, or if you're unsure on how to pull data from any of the digital evidence sources that I have listed already before, then a digital forensic expert can definitely provide you with their services. During an investigation, there are plenty of digital evidence that can be found. And just to reiterate on some of those things, that can include locations, changes to a file or a document, any type of system files, log files, photos, audio, and video files, and of course, so much more. With metadata, that will summarizes the basic details about the data, or as summarizes the basic details about the data, or as we like to say, data about data. The hash value is considered the fingerprint of a file. So once a file is created, then a hash value would be generated. Oftentimes, deleted data can be recovered, but as I stated before, it's easier to recover deleted data from computers than mobile devices, since mobile devices have those restrictions and limitations. Data load files will include the natives and the metadata from the files within an investigation. And after a digital forensic examiner or investigator has collected all of the data from an investigation, then the client has different export options that they can go with. Just as I stated in the last slide, the export options include PDF, Excel, data load file, HTML, as well as PST. So with that being said, that is all that I have for this webinar. So I would like to thank everyone for listening today, and I hope that this webinar has been very insightful for you all. So thanks again for listening.
Thanks, Asia. That was a great presentation on the intersection of digital forensics and eDiscovery. I'm going to briefly walk you through how Lexby helps law firms and enterprises address the forensic collections and eDiscovery. At Lexby, we provide comprehensive remote and on-site forensic collections that are fully defensible. We utilize industry-leading tools like Celebrite and Magnet, as well as others that Asia mentioned. We had a big shift to remote collections during the pandemic, and that has remained with most of our forensic collections being handled remotely. This is also a big cost savings for our clients, so that's been a favorable outcome from that shift versus doing everything on site and the costs associated with that. We handle a very wide range of devices and account types, as you can see on this chart, this partial list. We even perform forensic collections from drones. And so now I'd like to ask our next polling question. Do you have a forensic collection project, and would you like a complimentary consult? All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. With Lexby's eDiscovery platform hosted at Amazon Web Services, you get on-demand capabilities that scale to address the needs of your case. When we perform forensic collections, they can flow directly into our platform and make it super easy to cull, review, and produce if needed. With LexB's cloud infrastructure, you can get from document ingestion to review faster and get your productions out the door faster. All of your remote or mobile connected employees can access the LexB Discovery platform via a simple web browser. It works great on Macs, PCs, iPhones, Android devices, although I wouldn't want to do a large document review on a small screen like an Android device or iPhone, but you can certainly do that. On this slide, I wanted to point out that LexB is a single end-to-end eDiscovery platform. Unlike many eDiscovery providers, you don't have to move your data from one solution to another. LexB has fully integrated processing, review, analytics, case timelining, artificial intelligence algorithms, and production capabilities. We also have our own AI algorithms and predictive coding, which other providers often outsource to third parties. Keeping your data in an end-to-end eDiscovery platform like LexB helps eliminate the risk of errors from moving data between platforms, as well as eliminates the cost of what other providers often call promoting data from one platform to the next. And you can do it yourself and don't have to use expensive eDiscovery project managers. Traditional eDiscovery vendors typically charge you per gig to load the data into an early case assessment solution where they process the documents and perform functions like deduplication and denist. At LexB, we don't charge per gig for that. Since LexB is an end-to-end solution, we don't have to move or promote your data from one platform to another, which other vendors also charge for. LexB's hosting rate is also less than theirs, and we don't charge user fees either. We usually see other eDiscovery providers charging somewhere between $50 to $95 per user per month. And we're super efficient with our cloud-based technology, and we don't charge user license fees at all. So we're simply more efficient, seamless, and we enable you to handle document-intensive cases with limited staff more efficiently. On this slide, you'll see many of the AI and machine learning driven capabilities that we have. We've got multiple algorithms that are engineered into the LexB Discovery platform. And LexB's transcription service has just been incredibly popular because with the growth in Zoom calls and other web conferencing services due to the pandemic, we've seen a massive growth in audio recordings and matters. And so with LexB's transcription service, you can easily incorporate these files into your document review workflow. Our neural network transcription engine generates a transcript that identifies the different speakers, timestamps where the dialogue takes place on the recording, and makes it all fully searchable and a fraction of the cost of other transcription services. LexB utilizes AI and machine learning algorithms for several different use cases, including transcription, translation, sentiment analysis, cognitive image recognition. So if you've got a lot of photos in it matter, it automatically categorizes the photos by the content of the photo. So if you wanted to search for all the photos that have a crane in it, enables you to easily do that. We also have entity identification and more. We'd like to refer to this as evidentiary intelligence. These algorithms are tuned to perform these tasks and enable firms to handle document-intensive matters with limited staff. These AI functions are fully integrated into the LexB Discovery platform. If you've got large email sets to review, our email threading capability enables you to streamline this process. With the email thread visualization, you'll be able to quickly identify missing emails in a production, view the metadata without having to click into every email. You can also find those emails I talked about where counsel shifted to the CC line from the to line when someone else in the email thread responded prior to counsel responding. So this is really important, as I mentioned, to find these to ensure privilege is maintained. So often the court views counsel on the CC line as an FYI and not privileged. And now I'm going to talk about eDiscovery pricing. The purpose of eDiscovery technology should be to improve your document review capabilities while driving efficiencies in both time and cost. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of eDiscovery providers that don't pass on the cost savings that technology delivers. We host the LexB eDiscovery platform in the Amazon Web Services Cloud. Our processing, storage, and networking capabilities are not only highly advanced, but they're also incredibly cost effective, and we pass those savings on to customers. So here's an example of how we compare to a relativity reseller. We engineered and developed our own cloud-based platform starting more than 16 years ago and continue to innovate and improve with each new release. In this comparison, you'll see that the relativity reseller charges $30 per gig for data ingestion, which is processing. Our highly efficient processing servers and serverless architecture enables us to offer this for free. While the concept of promotion might sound good, this is usually a cost associated with moving data from one platform to another. You don't have to do that with LexB. The LexB eDiscovery platform is an end-to-end platform, and not only does this save you $125 per gig in this case, but it also helps you eliminate those data handling errors. We also don't charge user fees, so you can have as many users as you need at no additional cost. We also have 7 different user permission levels to help keep your data secure. We don't nickel and dime you either with OCR or electronic endorsement fees per page. We also have highly advanced analytics integrated into the platform at no additional cost. And we're able to deliver savings on the hosting costs as well. So regardless of if your case is small or document intensive, I'm confident you'll find the LexB delivers the industry's best return on investment. And with that, I'll ask our last polling question. Would you like a demo of the LexB eDiscovery platform? While you're answering that, I'll thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees: a recorded streaming version, MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about this webinar or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the LexB eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand webinars as part of the series, please email us at webinars@lexb.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And I'd also like to ask for your participation in the survey at the end of today's presentation. We take your feedback very seriously and want to continuously improve these sessions. So we value your advice and feedback on that. So please fill out the survey at the end of today's session. And with that, I'd like to thank Asia for presenting today, and thank you for attending. Watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in digital forensics and eDiscovery. Take care.